Welcome back, Chris. Thanks for calling in.
Rick, thanks for having me, my guy.
You got it. Let's get right into it. Let's jump right into it. Is Steph Curry hurt, Chris?
Look, I'm going to have to take him by his word. He obviously doesn't look right. I've asked him repeatedly, is there anything going on? He said, Chris, I'm fine. I'll take him by his word, Rich, but I will say this. If he's not hurt, then I think he's just still getting used to being back playing at this level. This is about his fourth or fifth game back since that injury. And Houston is going at him like I've never seen anybody go at one individual player before. So I think it's that. I think it's just the rust along with just how relentless Houston has been in attacking him.
Yeah, I mean, 23 times they made sure he was the primary defender on Game 2 night, and Game 1 they tried to do the same thing to him too, but he definitely played much better in Game 1. I'm wondering how the Warriors, best you can tell, are taking that Game 2 loss. How are they taking that one in, Chris?
Well, I spoke with Kevin Durant about what Houston is doing. You know, when Stephen Curry and Nick Young are on the court at the same time, then Houston has two options to go after to try to get those pick switches and try to exploit that. And I asked Kevin Durant, what can you guys do from a team defensive perspective? Because it pretty much takes you guys out of it and leaves it up to the individual to keep his man in front. He was like, look, he's like Steph and everybody else just has to man up. He said this is old school playground basketball where you just got to keep your man in front of you. And he said we got to trust our teammates that they're going to be able to get the job done. And Rich, you talk about those 23 possessions. Look, they try to go at them more. So that those 23 possessions don't take into account all the times they're trying to pick and move Steph around. And he's like, Steph is working. Like, he is moving his feet. It's just getting fatiguing because on some occasions those picks do work and they get Steph matched up on him. In other cases, they're still trying to use him, the man that they're guarding for a screen, and Stephen is moving all around. So he's working more so than what the numbers even would indicate. And so I don't know what the Warriors can do. I don't know if they say, hey, let's just stop switching things and go under the screens. And if you do that, then you're leaving those Houston shooters open. So it's going to be a tough, difficult task and adjustment for Steve Kerr. But I think everybody's looking forward to what he's going to do for Game 3.
What do you think he's going to do, Chris Haynes?
I think he's going to stay the course. I think he's going to stay the course and keep switching because, like I said, it's too problematic when you start going under those screens. But I just think more guys are going to have to help. And then if you're helping, then you're leaving the P.J. Tuckers and Trevor Reeves open for those threes. I think they're just going to try to bet that those guys just don't dominate them like they did in Game 2. They want to keep the ball out of Chris Paul and James Harden's hands as much as possible. So I would see a lot more help defense. And I think they will try to live with what P.J. Tucker and the rest of those guys can do.
Chris Haynes here on the Rich Eisen Show from ESPN. The one thing that the Warriors have not experienced in the playoffs with Durant part of this group is obviously a series that goes longer than 5 games. But in terms of the intangible, they've never, in my mind, experienced doubt. Do you think that's possible to place that into the equation in this series, Chris?
No, I certainly think it's possible. I don't think they feel that right now. I talked to Draymond Green after that Game 2 loss, and he was like, he told me, complacency could have, dripped in, after they won that first game and took home court advantage away. And he said maybe people were satisfied. And so there's no doubt. I think they feel like they'll be able to come home and take care of those both games and go back to Houston up 3-1. But look, the way that Houston plays, like it's overwhelming. Like when they're off, they're off. But when they're on, I'm talking about getting in transition, hitting all those threes, Chris Paul, James Harden break you down in isolation sets. It really gets demoralizing, and it really can have a mental effect on a team, like to where it's like, because if they're going to beat you, they're going to blow you out. That's just how Houston plays. So I can see if Houston gets one of those games like that where they blow Golden State out at home, then yes, I think you could see some doubt playing a factor from the Warriors locker room. But as of right now, there was no sense that they feel that way right now. But look, this is the series that everybody's been waiting for. Golden State has been looking forward to this series because Houston's been talking trash all year. And so you never know. But, we definitely shall see soon.
Chris Haynes from ESPN covering the Golden State Warriors primarily here on the Rich Eisen Show. One of the post-Game 1 sound bites that struck me, Chris, was when Klay Thompson was on the set with Shaq and Charles and Kenny and Ernie on Turner when they ran the highlight package and there was hardly any Klay Thompson in it. And they had some fun by saying to Klay, that he's kind of the third, fourth guy that gets mentioned for this team, and does he mind it? And he basically said he doesn't. He's handsomely paid. He lives in the Bay Area, and he plays for championships. I'm wondering where that attitude comes from to prevent the Pat Riley disease of more sinking in.
I think Klay is similar to, the personality of Tim Duncan, real low-maintenance guy. Everybody has an ego, but I don't think his ego is anywhere close to the other stars we have in this league. And that's a value and a luxury for Golden State because they can use that to their advantage as well. And so, look, I think Klay understands that he's in an ideal situation, and he's talked about it, ever since I've been, covering this team. He's talked about the fact that he knows that he's in a special situation, and he wants to try to maximize that to the best of his ability. And he's going to have a situation come up with his contract. He can be extended this summer, and he has to weigh the pros and cons of doing that. Does he leave money on the table, or does he try to go out there and chase a situation where he's the marquee player? So, but like I said, he's similar to Tim Duncan, to where I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to make sacrifices to keep this core together.
Is Steve Kerr instrumental in fostering that attitude, not just with Klay, but everybody else? I'm just trying to see if there's any secret sauce going on here.
No, I think so, Rich, and that's a good question you bring up because I know Steve often talks about, those Chicago Bulls teams, allowing greed to get in, and, even though they were known as a dynasty, they players on that team, those 90s Bulls teams, believed that they could have had more rings. And so I think that certainly if Steve Kerr is, harping on the just about keeping continuity and keeping the core together for long stretches, I definitely think that does play a part. I know they've had a conversation like that before. I don't think Steve is using that to say, hey, guys, do all you can to keep it together. But, yeah, I definitely think what he says and his experience of being a part of something similar, I think that does weigh on the guys.
A couple of more minutes with Chris Haynes of ESPN. I want to pick your brain about what you can tell me what you think's going on in Cleveland right now. Tristan Thompson saying that if you're not communicating on defense, then sit your ass on the bench. Who's he talking about?
Double T, man. I love that guy. Look, I think he's talking to everybody in general. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a subtle shot on LeBron too. That's one thing I always respected from Double T is that we all know LeBron. Like LeBron, he'll go off on anybody. He'll show you up on the court. And I noticed that whenever he does that to Double T, sometimes Double T will take it, but sometimes you'll see go right back off on LeBron while the cameras are rolling. Now, I haven't seen many players do that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that's a subtle shot at LeBron, but obviously collectively they all need to do the same thing and follow his lead. And it's interesting. I covered that team for 2 years, covered the year they won that title. And it seemed like throughout the course of the season, they will always have their lumps. And it'd be lumps to where you feel like, man, they need to break this thing up. They need to go out and get somebody. But at the end of the day, towards the end of the season, the Cavaliers will make repairs and they'll get it going. This season, I haven't seen this before. This is a circus season. There's been a circus in the postseason, and so I don't know what to say about that squad over there. They definitely, if they don't get Game 3, obviously it's over. But I've never seen this from a LeBron James team, especially LeBron James team, since he's came back to the Cavaliers.
Well, then he must be sitting there in the back of his head. Last one for you here, Chris, is how the next few games plays into his decision on July 1st. How can you read those tea leaves for me, best you can?
Well, look, man, I'm telling you right now, I personally I personally believe that his mind is probably already made up. And I know a lot of people will disagree with that and say he's not going to make a decision until after. I think his mind is pretty much already made up on, not where he's going to go, but, that it's hard for me to see him back in Cleveland, Rich. That's just it. And I think even if he is able to, I don't know, if he's able to get past Boston, it's difficult to see it. But if he's able to do that, I just don't see him that team matching up well against Golden State or the Rockets. And ultimately for LeBron, it's all about championships. So if you feel he doesn't have the roster that can compete for a title and not just compete, win the damn thing, he's not going to be invested. And so I think his mind may be made up as far as that he's leaving Cleveland. So these games really don't matter in the grand scope of things. But I definitely the one part that plays in the favor of the Cavs is that there aren't a lot of teams out there with cap space and with the situation that's desirable for LeBron. So they have that in his favor. But look, I think it's ultimately going to end with LeBron taking off. Where, I don't know, but definitely the way they're ending this postseason, or appear to be ending this postseason, is definitely not going to bode well for the Cavs.
That's what we call a cliffhanger. That's why I love having you on, Chris. I look forward to chatting before the finals. That's for sure.
Nah, no doubt, Rich. Rich, always. Thanks for having me, man.
Always, absolutely. Chris Haynes, Chris B. Haynes.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.